I may have shared some memes, but I haven't yet touched on this topic in one of my videos. So let's break down this Will and Jada situation some, right? Now it's gonna be a little bit different than the perspective that some people give. Now I'll explain why. So a lot of people are looking at this situation and judging it from the perspective of how you would judge a monogamous relationship. And the same people who are judging it like that are the same people who've been spreading the rumors that they were in an open relationship for like the last 15 years. People have been saying that shit. And the thing to understand is that Will and Jada is a business. Every marriage, every relationship should be a business in some capacity. But when you have hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, that makes it a little bit different than the usual relationship or the usual marriage that's supposed to be a business. There's a lot of money on the line. And when that money on the line is based off of your public image, and that's going to be what determines your ability to keep making that money, right? Because black love sells. For real. I would do it myself. Like that whole black love sales thing is just like you and your lady, y'all doing shit together. People see it. Y'all together, that's a beautiful thing. Especially if it's real. If it's real, that's dope. But Will and Jada have been seen and viewed as the black relationship, black love goals for the last 2 decades. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And a lot of that is going to be based on their ability to look like they have a traditional marriage from the outside looking in. And where this goes wrong is this. You know, if something is different on the inside than how they need to portray it on the outside, then usually it's just a matter of time before pressure bursts pipes. And it's just a matter of how you're going to go about handling the situation. Now, from the looks of it, things that I've heard regarding the situation, you know, I don't know, I'm not in their real life, but I can just look at the situation from the outside looking in. So I'd probably have to start with what August Alsina said, or before that situation even popped up. I saw the picture surfacing online with Jada Pinkett and August Alsina Smith, and they was all up on each other. I'm like, yeah, they definitely fucking. But I heard those rumors about them being in an open relationship or open marriage, and I remember just seeing how their kids are for a long time. So when I saw that, I was like, well, I wasn't really surprised. I'm like, all right, you know, Will must be a pretty open-minded dude if that's how he living his life. Hey, that's on them. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there's a difference between somebody being poly and somebody being open. There's two different things. Sometimes you're in an open relationship, not because both of you are polyamorous. You got to look at things on a scale of jealousy to neutrality to compersion to cuckoldry, right? We're looking at this as a perspective of a scale of how you would feel about your partner experiencing better things with other people than with you, right? You got to think about that. This is where a lot of it becomes a thing. Another thing is this: what rules you have in place, what boundaries you have in place, and what the power dynamic is within the relationship, and whether or not your ego can handle the truth of what that power dynamic is. So let's say I heard the story from August. He was talking about how he was in a damaged position. He was damaged. He was going through his mental health issues, his physical health issues, his addiction issues, which I heard Jada may have had in the past, different addictions and stuff. And when you're looking at this type of scenario, like, well, damn, if that was a woman and that was Will, he would be getting R. Kelly'd right now. He would be getting Me Too'd. And then I also heard that story about Chris Stokes. Not Chris Stokes, but whatever the nigga name from Criss Cross was. The nigga from Criss Cross. And I forgot the name of the dude who said that when he was younger, he saw Chris from Criss Cross, like 14 years old, going in the room with Jada so he can clap them cheeks. So that really is some R. Kelly type shit. You know what I mean? Low key, there's some predatory shit there going on with Jada to a certain extent, right? Gotta acknowledge that. I'm not gonna sit here and talk about it and not acknowledge that. And I ain't got no hate on them. I ain't got no hate with the motherfuckers, but I'm gonna touch on the stuff that makes some sense to me and gonna break it down more so from a sociosexual dynamics from Brodie's take. This is my perspective on it. So let's look at the situation and take it a little bit further. When we look at the situation and take it a little bit further, you see August talking about the position he was in, how Will gave permission to August. He went and talked to him and he gave him his blessing. Giving the blessing and giving permission is two different things, right? But what I will say is that also lets you know what type of power structure they have within their relationship. So what you see is Will probably would desire to have a certain level of control, but he's trying to practice having a certain level of non-attachment as far as trying to force himself to have composure and try to force himself to be open and accepting to what she was going through and what she was experiencing. And he said they were separated at the time, but I wonder if part of that was a lie or they just really were going through issues, because they probably go through a lot of issues in their marriage, like a lot of marriages do, but probably worse than a lot of marriages do because of the pressure that's put on them to have a perfect marriage. So it probably just makes it worse. So when we're looking at this particular scenario, you look at how August said Will gave his blessing. I believe everything August said. He said Will gave his blessing. When they went to the red table talk, they flipped it around and said that nobody can give permission, right? Now, on a perspective of them being separated, which was part of how they try to frame the story and the narrative, you can say that she was framing it as if, all right, this is a healing moment for me. Which is really a lot of that be some sage burning shit, the sage burning bitch shit where they be finding a way to try to explain the situation and whatever selfish actions they do as if it's a journey, right? That's just their energy. They're protecting their energy, and I'm going on a journey of growth and I'm growing. The only thing was growing was that dick when it got hard before it went inside of you. I don't really see how that was supposed to be growth if you're not learning how to actually be empathetic and sympathetic and learn how to treat your man better and learn how to treat your situation better, because before then we weren't really seeing all this shit, but afterwards everything's gotten worse since then. So I highly doubt there was much growth going on. There may have been some healing. Only thing healing going on was some sexual healing, right? And it looked like a lot of the same things that were done to correct the situation made it worse, because it's just developing a codependent relationship with somebody who is much younger than you so that you can have control over them and then discard them. It's kind of like it's kind of like being unicorn hunters, but for somebody who's younger or is an outside relationship. There's different ways that open relationships can work, and like I said, it's a spectrum, and it ranges from jealousy, but you're processing your jealousy. Then there's neutrality, which is you really are just very secure and you don't care what your partner does outside of you. Then it goes up to compersion, which is where you're genuinely happy for your partner experiencing things that they enjoy. And then there's cuckoldry, which is you take a selfish pleasure and satisfaction out of somebody doing to your woman what you can't. Now, it looks like a situation where Jada treats the situation like Will is at a cuckoldry level, when the way his face looked on the red table talk was more so that he's trying to force himself to process his jealousy in a way where he's being understanding. But then you can also look at it from that jealousy perspective that he was hurt by it. He was hurt. And regardless of what their situation was, the fact that she showed zero empathy towards him at all and acted like there was nothing that she did that was wrong. What you did that was wrong was if you knew that your understanding was that you keep your open shit private. If you knew that the understanding is that you keep your shit private to protect the bag, and then you see an opportunity to get the bag, so you make this shit public so that you can make yourself look a little bit better, which really had the opposite effect, and so that you can gain some more support for your own platform at the expense of the credibility of the main breadwinner in that relationship and situation, which is completely out of pocket. Even if nothing she did was wrong or breaking the rules of the relationship, once you get back into it, you got to look at that situation from, okay, did I do things when we acted like we weren't getting back together that would be an issue for when we do get back together, and how can I make that better? How can I try to make that right and show that I feel this way about this individual and that is somebody who's important to me? How do I be empathetic towards their feelings? Because you could see that nigga was fucked up when she was talking. He said, I'm gonna get you back. So a lot of these things, they went under the radar, they went under the table, they were swept under the rug. There's a lot of real passive-aggressive things, like Will talking about his girth. Didn't think he had the girth to do it. You also see things like Jada, talking about, it was very deep healing. She needed to feel good. She ain't felt good in a long time. I think the thing to understand here is that she has some shit on Will that if that shit got out, it would do much worse damage than what's actually being done. So I don't know if it's a matter of him being legitimately blackmailed, or if it's just something he knows that if they aren't actually married anymore, that she's going to be free to be as open and wild about her shit as she wants to be, right? And right now, she gets away with letting certain shit slip or saying things in a certain way that make him look bad, because at least she's not dropping the real beans. And I would guess, and I don't judge people who are like, I don't judge gay people, but I'm guessing it might be something along those lines, right? So if we're looking at the situation from this perspective, she probably feels like they've been kind of doing things in a way to kind of hint at and be a little bit public about their outside activities and the way that they present themselves, and not keeping everything under wraps, and not mixing business with pleasure. It seems like there's a little bit of that going on for a while, and it looks like perhaps they wanted to kind of dangle a carrot or kind of wag their finger at the face of the people who are watching and observing by doing little things that showed other than what they were trying to portray their marriage as. When I listened to what Will Smith said in his recent interview, he was talking about how with him and Jada, and I'm gonna jump back some more. I remember some years ago, before even the August shit came out, Will had posted some videos, because Will was always posting some videos that showed a lot of emotional intelligence, and it came more so from a perspective of life partnership. You got to understand the difference between a life partner and a loving spouse or a soulmate. There's a difference between a life partner and a soulmate. I'm not one of the people who just says, oh, go find your soulmate, but I'm not going to say that you can never be in a relationship where you two people feel like you fit very well and that you can make it work for the long haul. I don't, and you can feel that way without having to necessarily force yourself into a situation where you hate each other. Like, we talking about soulmates, that's just pretty much what I mean. That you still feel some type of sexual attraction and spark for each other, and love and adoration for each other over a long time. So when I say soulmate, that's what I mean, right? And that includes being sexually satisfied by the person that you're with. A lot of people aren't sexually integrated, and when you aren't sexually integrated, you go into kinks up until the point that you're comfortable, but past that point, you got to know how to get into developing slutting out. You got to get into developing sexual intimacy and mixing sex with emotions, and being at that place with the individual to where you can sustain that sexual attraction over an extended period of time, right? So I remember seeing those videos Will was making. In those videos that Will was making, he was talking about how she would be unhappy, and he would say, listen, go make yourself happy, and then you can come back to me when you're happy. So it sounds to me like he sounded kind of downtrodden. Like he spent a lot of time trying to be the perfect husband, spent a lot of time trying to do things right, trying to make her happy, and nothing was ever good enough for her, so he said, fuck it. It sounds similar, like if you're prematurely integrated, he was in a marriage where the stakes were too high to leave, and maybe he wasn't fully sexually satisfying her, and she needed, because she did say she had a sex addiction and she was addicted to sex toys, so maybe he had to fuck her so much, and it was just like, you know what, this is too much work. I'm too old to keep doing this. My back is getting old. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go have fun with these young girls. You have fun with whoever the fuck you want to have fun with. And then you come back to me when you good. And that probably included emotionally as well. And I think the thing that people probably missed, and when he said make yourself happy and I make myself happy, is that he meant by any means necessary. Right? Not by get alone and get some therapy and learn about yourself and and improve your mood, improve your attitude, and come back to me with a better attitude. No, he meant if you need to go find a nigga to give you an attitude adjustment, go do that, because apparently I don't have the ability to. And it's not your responsibility to make someone happy, right? But there is also a matter of when a woman really likes you, she feels honored to have you. She feels honored to have you. I remember there's this interview on the Red Table Talk where I believe she was talking to, was it George Clooney? I'm not 100% sure. I think it was George Clooney. And he asked Jada, how do you put up with Will after all these years? And then Jada was like, she didn't correct him. One, if you have respect for your man, you would never let somebody talk in that specific manner and put your partner down even in a joking way while they're flirting with you without correcting them and say, I don't have to put up with him. That's my man. I love him. Right? See, that's a completely different thing. That's a completely different thing. To put up with someone, that means that you're in a position of authority and they don't do the things that you say. Right? To put up with somebody means that's what that means. If you're a dom, a woman isn't putting up with you. A woman's learning to get with your program. Your shit's already on point. She's learning to pick up what you're putting down. So from different ways that they communicated and different ways that Jada would buck, like especially in the Red Table Talk with Will, when I looked at that situation, it looks more like she would be bucking at him at even the thought of him being an authority figure over her in any specific way, having any rules or boundaries that contradicted the things that she wanted to do for herself. Everything's about autonomy, but no actual accountability to the way that your partner feels and the way that they're perceived. Your social reputation is a big factor. She's putting the Red Table Talk and getting attention because she's getting older over the feelings, over the whole. Because Will's going to bring more money in regardless of how you shake it. Red Table Talk is not going to be bigger than Will Smith. Will Smith had like 10 back-to-back #1 movies. That shit's different. Jada's not on that level. And this is something that happens when you're in a masculine-feminine dynamic, or this is what happens when you're prematurely integrated, or you're in a relationship where the woman doesn't accept her role as being feminine and submissive. Even if she looks nice on paper, even if she's beautiful, even if her presentation looks feminine at times, you know, sometimes there are certain women who have this feminist mindset and they judge their success based off of the standards of a man being successful. And it looks like she may have been cool with that at first, being the supportive wife to an extent. But over time, resentment grew, and she felt like she was holding him back, even though she was probably holding herself back more than anything else. If you have a man who is that type of earner, you have a man who's on that type of program, what you got to understand is that the shit that you're doing is not as important. I'm not saying not as important as in it's not important at all, but what I'm saying is the goal should be, how am I raising up my children to be the greatest that they can be? Because believe it or not, a lot of the times when a man is in this position, he's doing that to build a legacy. If he could make the same amount of money and keep his legacy and spend more time raising his children, he would. He would. And some people make that sacrifice. You know, when a man chooses not to do that, like when a man chooses his career over his children 100% and his lifestyle over his children, and I'm not saying that's what he did, but I'm just saying when that happens, oftentimes children end up being raised by the mother, and she may spew things that are disrespectful about the father, invalidating his leadership. And the fact that she feels comfortable doing that means that that leadership deserves to be invalidated, because it's not present. It's not present enough to have impact. So let's say we're looking at this particular situation. Then now they got Jada talking about how it's been difficult maintaining a sexual relationship with Will over time. Now I'll say this about dom sub dynamics. You know, I made a video and I was talking about how when you're in a relationship and you're dealing with somebody in a certain capacity, something to understand is this. You know, you can't please women, right? But you have to have enough masculine energy. You have to have enough authority in that woman's mind to where pleasing you pleases her. If pleasing you pleases her, right, just sucking your dick is enough for her to feel satisfied. If a woman is addicted to you on that level, then one, she's going to be much more likely to be having orgasms. But even when she does, she's not even going to need one every time you have sex to feel satisfied, because she adores you. She feels honored to have you. And she's going to have more orgasms because of it. And if you're a good leader, once she's in that position, you don't take advantage of it by just neglecting her sexually, unless you're doing pleasure denial to build back up her desire level. You know what I mean? Or because she's acting up. But you can't do that when you're in a situation where a woman is defiant, and if you're not fucking with her, she's just going to go fuck anybody else anyways. So the thing to understand about looking at these type of dynamics is, she was saying it's been difficult to maintain it because she expected him to read her mind, which means that there is a bad dynamic there. The communication doesn't express a clear masculine feminine dynamic. It's her being both feminine and masculine, right? Feminine as far as not wanting to express her, feminine as far as desiring certain things, dominance, desiring to be dominated, but at the same time having that masculine energy that prevents him from going there, but also having this mindset to where she wants him to read her mind. If you're going to take that leadership role, you need to know how to tell somebody what the fuck you want. Honestly, whichever one of them decided that they wanted to leave the relationship, and it looks like it was Jada and the thing she wanted. It seems like Will was kind of pressured or manipulated, or I don't want to say manipulated because he's a grown man. He ain't